According to the census records, the Sith Empire comprised several dozen planets. The Sith who had taken Revan might have come from any one of those worlds. If she could figure out which was his home, she might be able to narrow her search. However, as she cross-checked the names and galactic coordinates of the listed worlds, Meetra quickly realized that they were all planets already known to the Republic. Over the last 1,000 years, the Jedi had systematically purged every planet mentioned in the census of their Sith influence. These were the records of the Sith Empire that was no more. Refusing to give up, she dug deeper into the data files they had gathered, examining records pertaining to Nathema itself. For several days, she pored through the archives, stopping neither to eat nor to sleep. Every few hours, she refreshed herself with a quick meditation break, drawing on the Force to replenish her fading stores of energy and mental focus so she could continue her work. There were tens of thousands of government documents and reports collected from over 50 different agencies, but Meetra refused to be daunted by the monumental task. She continued to pore through the archives, and slowly, a picture began to emerge. The people of Nathema had spent their last days in a terrified and desperate state. They had known it was only a matter of time until the Jedi found them, and the ruler of Nathema, a Sith named Lord Vitiate, had preyed upon his people's fear. Transcripts of Vitiate's public speeches were filled with graphic warnings of what the Jedi would do once they arrived. Records confirmed that his speeches had been broadcast and transmitted across the whole of the Empire, sowing the seeds of terror among all the Sith worlds. Vitiate had consciously and carefully driven the people into a state of panic, knowing they would blindly follow anyone who offered hope. Vitiate was quick to fulfill that role, and he put out a call for all the other surviving Dark Lords to join him on Nathema in a ritual that he promised would lead the Sith to salvation. At the same time he was doing this, Vitiate also had top historians and scientists secretly trying to determine the location of a planet called Dromund Kaas, the long-lost homeworld of the original Sith species. Meetra discovered this only because of T3's exceptional slicing skills. The astromech had not only copied and translated all the data from the archives, but also decrypted the passcodes to unlock classified government files, which he had then marked as having top priority to help simplify Meetra's investigations. The team Vitiate assigned to search out Dromund Kaas had operated in total secrecy, sequestered day and night in a research lab as they studied the ancient star maps and astrogation charts. Fortunately, the leader of the team had been a meticulous record keeper, and every step of the process had been carefully documented, including the moment of triumph when they were finally able to theorize a hyperspace route that would lead them safely back to Dromund Kaas, where the Jedi could never follow. The final entry in the team leader's project log detailed her efforts to prepare her findings so they could be presented to Vitiate in person. Lord Vitiate publicly proclaimed the commencement of his great ritual just 3 days later. Chronologically, there were no records after the proclamation. Nothing from the research team. Nothing from any of the other departments. It was as if every member of Nathema's sprawling government had simultaneously vanished from existence. Even without any official account of what had happened next, however, it wasn't hard for Meetra to put the missing pieces together. The ritual had obviously destroyed Nathema, snuffing out all life on the world. Lord Vitiate had offered his people hope, and instead had brought them a fate worse than death. Utter eradication of life, existence, and even the Force. Meetra was no expert on dark side sorcery, but it was safe to assume Vitiate not only survived the ritual, but emerged more powerful than ever. And with the destruction of everyone on Nathema, including his research team, he alone would have known the location of Dromund Kaas. The plan was both horrifying and brilliant. In addition to becoming more powerful than Meetra could imagine, Vitiate could blame the extinction of his homeworld on the Jedi, further panicking the remaining Sith worlds. Then he could have offered them a glimmer of hope, promising to lead all those who swore loyalty to him to a place where the Jedi would never find them. If Vitiate had been as cunning as Meetra imagined him to be, he wouldn't have led his followers directly to Dromund Kaas. Instead, he would have taken them on a long and trying exodus, during which the Sith would have been forced to turn to him time and again for support and guidance, their dependence on him growing until he went from leader to hero to savior. By the time they finally reached Dromund Kaas, they would likely have worshipped Vitiate as a god, all-powerful and all-knowing. Fascinating history, to be sure, but Meetra didn't know how it could help her find Revan. Vitiate's grand plan had taken place over 1,000 years earlier. Surely Vitiate himself was long dead, and even if he had led the Sith to Dromund Kaas, there was no guarantee they were still there. There were other possibilities to consider as well. The Sith were an aggressive and warlike species. It was possible that Dromund Kaas was just one of many worlds in the unknown regions that had fallen under their control over the last 1,000 years. It was possible, and even likely, that the red-skinned being who had captured Revan had taken him to an entirely different planet, one she had never even heard of. But at least she had a lead. And no matter how slim the odds of finding her mentor, Meetra wasn't about to give up. She trusted in the Force. Eventually, it would lead her to him. From the census records, it was clear that humans were, or had been, part of the Sith Empire. If Vitiate's followers had settled on Dromund Kaas, she should be able to pass among them by posing as a mercenary, a role she knew well from the years she had spent living as the exile in the Outer Rim. As she punched the hyperspace coordinates from the research team leader's logbook into the nav computer, T3 came over and chirped inquisitively. "We're going to a world called Dromund Kaas," Meetra said, as the Ebon Hawk made the jump to light speed. "If Revan's there, we'll find him."